Welcome to a special edition of The Observers. It's been a year since Russia invaded Ukraine. We've been speaking to Ukrainians throughout the country since the invasion began. We checked in on some of them to see how 1 year of war has impacted their lives. Like Taras, who stayed in Kyiv.
I'm taking care of my parents, both of whom are disabled. That's why we chose to stay here in Kyiv. When the Russians began bombing us in late February, we used the bomb shelter a few times, but then my dad just kind of gave up because it was too hard for him to move. Usually we have blackouts on like work days, and they average 3 to maybe 5 hours a day. Back in mid-fall, I mostly relied on candles and these small stoves to cook myself like eggs.
Гріємо борщ. Ось так виживаємо.
Our worst blackout was the blackout in late November. We didn't have any power for 3 days. A lot of the stores ran out of food. Our last major bombing raid was on New Year's Eve, and several people died actually here in Kyiv. But since then, we haven't had any major bombings and blackouts. I consider myself one of the lucky people because I have a roof over my head and bread on my table, and I'm relatively healthy, and that's what really matters at this point.
An estimated 8 million refugees have fled the fighting in Ukraine for neighboring countries. One of them is our observer Veronika, who's in North Macedonia after fleeing Mariupol, not long after the invasion began.
These sounds of bombing, of explosions were really close. Like they were close and close and close by every hour. We realized that we need to leave the city. We were just crossing these big streets. They were full of ruins, some metal, glass, trash, rubbish from the ruined buildings, ruined streets, ruined cars that was caught up by fire. We moved from Zaporizhia to Dnipro, then we crossed all the way from Dnipro to Lviv, then from Lviv to Uzhgorod, and then from Uzhgorod to the small village in mountains.
Veronika ended up with some family friends in North Macedonia.
I'm living with my mom right now. I do my studies online and I'm finishing my 3rd year right now. I work remotely. To be honest, I can say that I have a life because what I have right now is, of course, I'm alive. Even if the war finishes right now, like let's imagine it, my home is ruined. All of my connections, like university, work, my sport. I was a hockey player. My team, my ice rink, my school friends, they doesn't exist anymore.